despite their numbers, they all have the same qualities, they all have the same features, and the feature the passage is trying to talk about is their eating habits. That is, snakes don't have good eating habits. In some cases, they could eat just twice in a year, so far it is going to sustain them. In some cases, they eat just twice in a year, and this twice meal in a year would sustain them throughout the year without dying. Question 7. The most notable thing about snakes, according to the passage, is that they A. exist in families, B. abound in Gombe and Plateau states, C. are versatile, and D. eat big but seldomly. The final answer is option A. The answer is option D, and that is on the eating habit of snakes. They eat big, and when the passage indicates that they eat big, it talks about eating large animals that could be bigger than the head of the snake itself. And then the seldomly talks about the frequency at which snakes eat, and the passage discloses that in some cases the snake could eat just twice in a year, and it will sustain the snake throughout the year. Question 8. Which of the following is true according to the passage? Snakes are seldom seen at the Antarctica. Option B. Snakes are not seen in the polar regions. Option C. Snakes are endemic on every continent. And option D. The Republic of Ireland. The answer is option A, that snakes are seldom seen at the Antarctica. Let us go to the passage and see what we have there. This is contained in the second sentence of the second paragraph. I read, they owe much of this success to their versatility. Snakes occupy habitats ranging from underground burrows to the top of the tree to ocean depths as great as 150 meters. Okay, now to the third sentence of the second paragraph. They are found on every continent except Antarctica. This means that snakes will be very rare on the Antarctica. So our final answer is option A. Question 9. It can be deduced from the passage that snakes have A. large appetite for antelopes, B. no external auditory organs, C. visible internal auditory locomotive organs, and D. no usual sense of measurement. The final answer is option C, that is, snakes have visible internal auditory locomotive organs. Question 10. A suitable title for this passage is A. Species of snakes in Nigeria and other lands, B. Feeding habits of snakes, C. Some characteristics of snakes, and D. Snakes as legless, cold-blooded reptiles. Our final answer for question 10 is option C, which states that characteristics of snakes, and that is true of the passage. The passage talks about the characteristics and features of snakes. The third passage contains gaps which you are to fill the provided options. So the instruction, the passage below has gaps numbered 1 to 20. Immediately following each gap, options are provided. Choose the most appropriate option for each gap. Each question carries 2 marks. Now to the passage. The passage is on mass media, and the mode of the mass media is the newspaper. Setting up a newspaper involves a lot of preparation. Dash has to employ a lot of people, and we have option A, sub-editor, B, processor, C, lithographer, and D, proprietor. And the answer is proprietor, that is, the person who owns or who organizes the media house or the newspaper house. So we have a proprietor. The proprietor has to employ a lot of people. Other people working with cartographers, editors, typesetters, readers, who work in various ways to produce the text of the newspaper. Number 12. A, vendors, B, agents, C, reporters, and D, analysts. Among these 4 options, the most appropriate one is reporter, since we are discussing the media house and the reporting. So reporters who specialize in one kind of topic. Another important person who works closely with the editor-in-chief is the news editor, and that is option C. The news editor who has to choose the most important stories. Dash, producer, sub-editors, writer, agents. Among these 4 options, the most appropriate one is agents, which is a replacement for, which is actually going to fill in the gap in the expression. Agents go through stories sent to them and make necessary suggestions. The editor-in-chief could determine, for instance, whether a particular journalist should write article daily or weekly in a particular column. Such a journalist is known as A. Essayist, B. Freelancer, C. A composer, and D. Columnist. The answer is a columnist, and a columnist is actually the person who writes on a page of the newspaper, and the writing would indicate his name, the phone number, everything about the writer, and then it will indicate a particular field of study or a particular discipline, and that is what the columnist would stick to. The columnist could actually choose to be writing on health. The columnist could decide to be writing on beauty, and so on. The editorial of the newspaper will be coordinated by A. Agent, B. A guide of the researcher, C. An editorial board, and D. All readers. The answer is the columnist, because it is the columnist that writes most articles on pages of the newspaper, and their names and contact addresses are usually written on that page where their essays are contained. The publisher could decide to establish option A is not so visible here, option B, an article, option C, a column, and option D, a magazine. So magazine actually suits the purpose of this passage, and we have chosen magazine, which would be sold weekly, fortnightly, and monthly. Dash, A. Contrast in, B. A contrast from, C. Contrast for, and D. Contrast to. The answer is contrast to, because it is a combination of the appropriate verb and preposition. Contrast to, the eyes catching, screaming headlines and captions of newspapers on sale every day from the salesman. So the final one is salesman. We could actually have vendor, because the vendor is more appropriate, but since we don't have vendor in the context, in the options, we are going for salesman. 2013 UTM use of English past questions, and the paper type is type B. Passage 1. Music plays a vital role in human society. Good music provides entertainment and emotional release, and it accompanies activities ranging from dances to religious ceremonies. Music is heard everywhere, in auditoriums, homes, elevators, school, sports, arena, and on the streets. Recorded performance is a sensational innovation of the 20th century. Thanks to modern technology like compact disc, CD, digital video disc, the DVD, and the MP3 player, music can now be heard in diverse places. Such places include living rooms and cars, Jogging parks can also function as new kinds of concert hall, where we can hear what we want as often as we want. Live performances provide a special excitement. In a live performance, artists put themselves on the line. To avoid embarrassment, the artist must train beforehand and ensure that technical difficulties are avoided and that the listeners are actively involved. What is performed, how it sounds, and how the artists feel that evening exists for a fleeting moment and can never be repeated. An audience responds to the excitement of such a moment, and feelings are exchanged between stage and hall. A response to a musical performance or an artist is subjective and rooted in deep feelings. Even professional critics can differ strongly in their evaluations of a performance. There is no one truth about what we hear and feel. Does the performer project a concept, an overall, or an emotion? Do some section of a piece but not others communicate something to you? Can you figure out why? It is up to us as listeners to enhance our ability to compare performances and join music so that we can fully enjoy it. People listen to music in many different ways. For instance,